September the 15th. It's almost 8 p.m. and welcome to Sunday. I wanted to do an episode today, and I wanted to, as I had kind of mentioned before, I want to be as helpful as I possibly can with you guys, if that's even possible. As I have said before, I am not a teacher or a guru. I'm simply a traveler, and my experiences have done nothing but humble me and kind of made me kind of think that I really don't know much of anything at all. But if anything I can say to you can be helpful to your own journey, well, I'm going to try and see where that goes, if it is going to be helpful. And that's kind of what this is today. I'm going to kind of go back through time since I've been having, I haven't been having really any experiences lately. And I can say that probably a big part of that is the healing process after my surgery. I think that that has something to do with it. I think my energies are kind of focused on that. I am dreaming again, and I am seeing things when I close my eyes and I'm tired in the morning at times. I've been seeing stuff, kind of weird stuff that I can't really explain, but I've been seeing stuff. So there's that, and I that's a positive. So dreaming and seeing things is a good thing. It's a positive, but I haven't been having regular experiences, not shifting experiences, not astral projection experiences. But I thought that going back through time to my first experience and going back to how I achieved that first astral projection experience, maybe that will help you. Maybe it won't. I also wanted to mention to you guys, I don't do a lot of this promotion stuff, but I did want to mention to you guys that I've been working very, very hard on my Storyville stuff, the fictional side of what's going to be a different channel. And I'm hoping that you guys come over and listen to it, because I have worked very hard on the different stories. And at least two of the stories has a lot to do, I think, with both shifting and has a very spiritual kind of an astral projection kind of thing going on. So I hope that you guys come over to Storyville and check it out. There'll be a lot more stuff, a lot more stories, things that you can kind of just lay back, kind of shut your eyes. Maybe if it's nighttime, you want to go to sleep, and you can just listen to these stories before you go to sleep. Hopefully my voice might put you to sleep. Anyways, let me get to going back to my first experience. I've been asked about this so much, and I've made videos on it, but let's go back through time to my first experience to try and go through what my process was, if there was any process at all. Really, honestly, guys, there wasn't a process, but maybe you can get something from this. Maybe you can mine something from what I'm saying to you about this. So, as you may know, my first experience, my first astral projection experience was in 1978 or so. And I was about 9 years old, and a childhood friend of mine, of course, just so you millennials and moving forward, the other folks know, this was before there was an internet. We actually did talk to each other face to face back then. There was no subreddit to go to. We couldn't go on a subreddit and talk to each other. We had to actually go and like knock on a door of a friend and say, "Hey, you want to come out and play?" or whatever. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of that stuff. So I had a childhood friend who was kind of into, I guess you could say the occult, but the spiritual stuff. And one day he had sat me down in his house, and we were talking, and he started telling me about this astral projection thing. Now, when he first told me about astral projection, I did not believe him. I gotta tell you, even at the age of 9, I thought, man, what a cool thing that is. That would be so cool to be able to walk through walls and fly and do all these things. That would be awesome. But you know what? I don't think that exists. I think this guy's just telling me something. These are cool stories. He told me about an experience where he actually left his body and he floated up and he saw a tunnel going through his wall and he was able to go through this tunnel. I still remember the story and I was like, wow, really? I don't think so, right? So this was what my mindset was back then. That night, after I finished talking to him, I laid back. Now let's go through my process. Let's go step by step here. So, number 1, I did not believe what he was telling me. What does that mean to you as a person who's trying to astral project? What that probably means to you is that maybe you should stop putting so much focus on, I gotta do this. I've talked about desperation before. I obviously wasn't desperate. Why wasn't I desperate? Because I really didn't believe that it was possible at the time. I mean, there was some part of the back of my mind that was thinking, yeah, it would be kind of cool if that were possible. And maybe some part of me thought, well, who knows? Maybe if I tried what he said. And he had said something about closing your eyes and imagining a white light around you. That's what I remember him talking about. That's the only thing. So when you guys talk about methods and visualization, that was the only thing this person had told me. So for me, there really wasn't a method or a visualization or anything like that. Again, this was something that was in the back of my mind. Now, when I laid down, I had no idea that I was going to have my first experience. Again, what I hear so often with people that are trying to have an astral projection experience is they are completely focused on it. They're like, okay, I got to do this. I'm going to do this. What's this feeling? I feel this little thing here with my arm. I feel this, this tingling. My heart is racing, all this stuff. You know what? I wasn't thinking about any of those things. I wasn't thinking about my heart racing. I wasn't thinking about the things I was feeling. I was just kind of laying down and relaxing. Again, the thoughts were somewhere in there, right? But I was just relaxed. That's all. I was just relaxed. Now, at some point, I reached that middle space. And this is something that I've talked about. And people have asked me, they're like, so how do you get to the middle space? Guys, it is my belief that astral projection is not this thing like you can have instructions, like first you do step 1, then you do step 2, then you do step 3, then you do step 4. Okay, you're not assembling a bicycle here. Okay, this is the issue that I have, I think, a lot with people that are especially in the subreddit community. They take the values, they take the things that we have in our 3D world and they project them on to the astral plane and being able to get out there, when the process is something that goes beyond this physical world. Now, we have the power to do it. That's my belief. Each and every person listening to the sound of my voice has the ability to do this, because I think that inside of us, it's there, that more expanded part of us, if we allow it to expand and to get out there and to help us and to assist us. But again, unfortunately, I think what happens is that people have a tendency to put the things in the 3D world, the things that we would do to be able to do things in the 3D world, like, I don't know, build a car or build a bike or do something like that. And they say, okay, well, if that works for this world, then we should be able to use, a step-by-step instruction guide to be able to get out and astral project. And I don't necessarily believe that it works like that. I believe there's something else going on that helps us to get out there, something beyond the physical world that is a part of us, that more expanded part of us, the part that, when I say expanded, for those of you who have not heard me mention that term before, expanded self, what I mean is higher self. And the reason why I don't use higher self is because I don't put that part of me on a pedestal. That part of me is an aspect of me. And this is the kind of stuff that kind of drives me nuts, because people are like, well, then there are these higher astral dimensions, and there are lower dimensions where there's evil and all this stuff. These are our judgments, in my opinion. We are making judgments about what's good and what's evil, and what level is lower and what level is higher. Much of this, I believe, is due to movies, television, books, things that are fictional, things that have those types of conflicts because they need to make a story interesting. As a writer, I know this as a creative person. But can we for a moment just think that there are just different levels? There are different areas, different dimensions. Nothing lower or nothing higher. They're different. Okay? And, depending on where you go, there could be some places that are unpleasant that you might not want to go, that are different. But does that make them evil? I don't know. I'm not here to judge. So getting back to that night, I reached that middle space between being asleep and awake for the first time. And guys, if you're wondering what it feels like, it's very distinctive, and it's very difficult for me to explain to you what that is. I've tried on this channel before. I've talked about that bridge where we first begin our sleep cycle when we shut our eyes, and then we're starting to cross the bridge. And then once we get to the middle part of that bridge, that's the part that we want to get to be able to either astral project or to shift. If we go past that middle space, then we go into the dream world. That is my thought, my opinion, my experience. So what I can suggest for those of you who are trying for that first time is just to simply lie down, shut your eyes, and relax, and see if you can catch yourself just before you hit that space. Now, I'm not saying that's easy, and I'm not even saying that I know exactly how to do it, other than to have the intent in your head to do it. So in your mind, you have already, before you lay down, before you shut your eyes, said in your mind, I really want to reach that middle space. I want to reach that space between being asleep and awake so I can leave my body. Now, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that I think that people don't talk about, and it's interesting. This just kind of came into my head. And these are things that I think you should think about if you are trying to leave your body and you're not having luck doing it. One of the things you should really start to consider is the fear that you may have. People can try and say that they're not afraid, but I can tell you, in the very beginning, even though I was having the experiences, I was scared. I was. I am not ashamed to admit that I was scared in the beginning time. It was fine if this stuff was happening in the daytime when the sun was out, but at nighttime, I was scared. Okay, when I was a kid. And I think we have to all ask ourselves, how much fear is coming in when we're trying to do this? Oh, I want to leave my body. Oh, I want to get out there. I want to do this. But there's some part of you that is afraid to do it. And I can tell you that can be a block. More than likely, that might just block you from being able to achieve this. You might also, again, going to the shifters, you might also want to think about this as well. with those of you who shift. Same thing. What are the fears that are going on inside of you? Are there fears of you going out there and going into another reality? And going back to the whole shifting thing, and maybe this can also apply to astral projection, you really want to try and think about what your expectations are and get rid of all of them. All of them. Just throw them all out. I know you've read the success stories in the subreddit about people who have done this and they've done that. Forget all that stuff. This is you. This is not them. Number one, you don't know these people that have written these things down in the subreddit. You don't know who they are. You don't know them personally. Like the person that I learned about astral projection from, I knew him. He was a friend. He was a childhood friend. But on the internet, you don't know these people. So forget all of that stuff. Open your mind to an experience, okay? Now, at some point, I felt the tingling sensation and I started to rise out of my body, and you guys know the whole story. Those of you who have listened to my first experience, I was basically astral blind that first time, and I went up against the ceiling. I was, kind of flailing my arms around. I was screaming. I was like, oh my God, this is real, that kind of thing. All that stuff happened the first time, but over time, I got used to it. After years and years of doing it over and over and over again, I began to realize that there was nothing that I had to fear from it. Now, with the shifting stuff, I really wish for those of you who listen to this channel for shifting, I wish I could be of further assistance. I've talked about how I began the whole shifting journey, and that I'm really not sure exactly, other than the fact that the traumatic incident happened where I had my accident, and then afterwards there was a change. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to have a traumatic incident in order to be able to shift. I am not saying that. Please don't take it that way. For me, that was what happened. There was a traumatic incident, and then suddenly I started seeing things when I closed my eyes, and then suddenly I found myself in these different places at times. But again, I had a background of astral projection, and before the astral projection, I had lucid dreaming before I knew what lucid dreaming was. So there was a history of things. So this was probably something that was locked up inside of me, and the traumatic incident may have awakened it somehow, some way. I cannot be sure of that at all. But to be fair with the shifters, I want to get more into the shifting aspect of things in the next episode. But it is important with this whole thing, with the astral projection thing, to think about the process that I went through. The fact that I wasn't focused, I wasn't desperate, I was relaxed, but it was in my thoughts. People wonder, or they've asked before, I've seen this on the subreddit, what is letting go? What does that mean? Because they see so many people that say, in order to astral project, one must let go. And that might be with shifting as well. Well, in my opinion, letting go means allowing your more expanded self to take over. Allowing the part of you that has the ability to do this to take over, and to trust that it will take over and that it will get you there. And to stop being frustrated if it doesn't happen tomorrow or a week or 2 months or 3 months from now, because I read this stuff. Somebody is saying, oh, I've been doing this for like 6 months and I'm not getting any results. And I kind of feel like saying, well, I've been doing this for over 40 years. And yeah, I'm getting results, but this is after a very long time of doing this. So I want you to keep all of these things in mind. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. And until next time, take care.